In this lesson, we're going to be talking about modulation and effects. These two things can really take a kind of basic sound and bring it to the whole next level, adding textures, movement, and things that you really desire when hearing sound design. The first thing we're going to be talking about is low frequency oscillators, commonly referred to as LFOs. These are oscillators that oscillate at a very low frequency, much lower than an audio rate, and they can affect signals within the synthesizer. Now, commonly, LFOs can be routed anywhere, to an oscillator, to a filter, to an envelope, to actually modulate over time the things that are happening in them. On this synthesizer, I have 3 LFOs. These LFOs can be pretty much routed anywhere and can be used to do cool things like tremolo, vibrato, and a whole range of other effects. But mainly, we can do really cool vibrato and tremolo right here without even having to do anything else. So for instance, let me give you a quick example. I have a lead patch here. Beautiful, but it can have a little movement in it, something that makes it more lively sounding, like someone's playing an instrument. So if we take an LFO and we send it to the fine tune pitch of the oscillator and turn up the amount a little bit, you can hear it start vibrating left and right, the pitch. Now, if you dial this in just a little bit, it can sound like an actual person's playing it. So another way to actually use this while you're playing instead of having to dial it in with a knob is you can route this usually to something like a mod wheel or some other type of controller that can bring in and out this sound. So for instance, with this kind of patch, it could be played like this. If you see, the mod wheel is controlling the amount that this LFO is affecting the pitch of the oscillator. These are cool ways that you can use modulation to affect the sound and create really cool humanistic effects. Another quick tip is you can use an LFO to modulate the volume of a sound. Now, the volume is a little hard to modulate. You could do it with the amount of the envelope, but a great way is to open and close the filter. And this actually is a very similar way to it sounds when people are playing instruments, brass instruments, things like that. So for instance, I have the touch slider mapped to this cutoff. So this type of modulation, specifically using LFOs, can really open up the sound and make things more dynamic, more movable, and more humanistic. The last thing I want to talk about in this lesson is the effects section on a synthesizer. Now, not all synthesizers have effects, but if you do, these are very useful for making your sounds more complex. For instance, on a bass sound, you might want to add a little bit of distortion. On a pad sound, you might want to add a little bit of chorus. On a lead sound, you might want to add a little bit of reverb. Things like this can really bring a sound from something basic to something really next level. So for instance, let's load up a quick bass sound here. Now I'm going to bring in some distortion. Just adding that distortion really changes the sound and makes it more lively, might even sit better in the mix. So by incorporating modulation using LFOs, your envelopes, and effects, you can really take more of a basic sound and make it into something totally new, movable, dynamic, that has life to it, that's really humanistic, that's really going to add something to your mixes and give you a whole new sound design palette.